So the last part of today's proceedings and event is a conversation between two friends, two artists that are very well known in the French context and internationally, two artists who are very close to LUMA, two artists who have been instrumental in changing the perception of what art can do, conceptual art, what is conceptual art today, the ideas that can be developed, what does it mean to create notions of humanity, of understanding each other, of like space, time, in the current moment, to change the perception of how do we understand our relationship to the world through images, through sound, through installation, through film, through media and technologies. Artists who have made extremely important projects for us, and we are delighted with the productions that we have made here possible. The ideas that they have created, the generosity with which they have worked with us in the past, and the projects that they have made with us, and their friendship, of course, the fact that they're very close to us for a long period of time. These artists are Philippe Parreno and Dominique Gonzalez-Foerster. With Philippe Parreno, we have commissioned a new work, which I invite you all to see if you haven't seen yet. It's in the ground level of the building. It's called Dani. It's a gallery, which includes a film. The central element of it is a film, which is a film of all the films that Philippe has made, a film which gives input to all the other elements of the gallery itself. It's almost like creating continuous machines that move, that create experience, that exist, kind of like a creature somehow with its own sentience, with its own life. And Dominique has a gallery as well here, in which we present a work of hers called XIXᵉ. XIXᵉ was produced in 2016, and it's a work which includes virtual reality. It's a work which includes sound, through which the viewer, the activator, enters a state of trance through the visualization of colors and the three-dimensionality of colors and sound. In the context of the discussion, I think there's parts that have been very influential for both of them, in the context of science fiction, in the context of like thinking about the future, futurity, thinking about the past as well, thinking about friendship, thinking about people, thinking about realities. And I wanted to start with this question of friendship. And I wanted to ask about the moment that they remember meeting up, and like, Dominique, how do you remember the first time that you met?
I went to Philippe, so happy for the invitation, and so happy to continue our endless conversation with Philippe. So the first moment we met, let me think. I think it was at the École des Beaux-Arts de Grenoble. That I remember Philippe.
I think it was before, Dominique. I think it was before.
Was it before?
It was in the classroom of when we were studying drawing in the Simonier. Lycée Monnier.
Absolutely. You have a better memory. Yeah. It's just that at concept, our meeting point when we started to talk.
When you started to talk, to actually be in conversation with each other.
Very special drawing class. So,
but
for me,
we actually met really early on, but we didn't talk so much. That was about 40 years ago.
Yes.
It was I spent more time in my life knowing you than not knowing you. And And we started to talk together at the art school.
Do you remember
Yes,
that?
because at school,
35 years ago.
immediately I was so excited by the references we were throwing at each other.
So,
Because it was nothing to do with art history.
what did it have to do with?
Do you remember too?
It was about books.
Was
we
it?
didn't really spend much time in the art school doing whatever. Doing what the students do, like painting, mainly. We were spending time in the library and reading books and exchanging titles. Also buying books, I think. We bought books for the library, remember?
Yes, we spent a lot of time in the library.
And what about
I
science
think
fiction?
for us it was the most interesting space.
Did science fiction play a role in the books that you were reading at the time? Was science fiction an important element in your research or in your engagement with the library, with the books? Dominique?
Philippe, Philippe, I remember, was talking all the time about what was the book you were so pleased about, Philippe?
Sorry? The book I was crazy about?
Yes.
What was the book I was crazy
It was No Coach? No?
Oh, there are so many. Yeah, I can't remember. I remember reading the science fiction. The science fiction books came a bit later. Yeah, but I remember a book that we talked about was a book by Edouard Dujardin called Les lauriers sont
Oh, yeah.
coupés.
Les lauriers sont coupés.
Mm-mm. Do you remember that book?
I was so
Do you remember?
excited to tell you about this very early monologue before ever.
When we spoke about earlier about
It's been a voice.
when we spoke about the collaborations that you have done earlier, Dominique, you mentioned one moment that was something appeared, an apparition. Do you remember this?
A moment like the first collaboration between me and Philippe.
Mm-hmm.
I think it started time slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you remember, Philippe, the conversation?
Mm-hmm.
Was
Yeah, I remember.
When was it? What does your memory say? Dominique?
it
yeah, it
feels
sounds
like we have funny games in our memory.
But I wanted to ask you about the apparition, because there was a moment that in the works that you collaborated at, the works that you kind of like did together, there was a moment of apparition, and apparition has played a big role in your work, Dominique. Do you want to speak about this a little bit?
Yes, it was this moment where, but I think before that, it's important to talk about ainsi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because ainsi somehow leads to the apparitions.
Mm-hmm. How did you start working on ainsi together? Ainsi was a project that you instigated, Philippe.
Yeah, it's an idea that we that we developed with Pierre Huyghe, some time ago now, and it came out from some information I read from Libération, but there was some about a manga, the manga culture, and there was this information that some companies were selling characters because the industry needed a lot of characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were companies that were designing characters. So I went to Japan and we tried to find a company, which I didn't find. And when I came back to Japan with Pierre, we finally found one company who agreed to sell us one character. And the character had no name, just a number and an invoice. And so we had this idea to really produce a sort of community behind or around or with that sign. With the sign being this fictional character. And so I did a film, Pierre did a film, and then we asked if different parties to develop more stories for this character. And so that was the collectivity that we produced.
And Dominique, when did you start being part of this, of the Ainsi project? What was your involvement and how did you begin?
Well, from the beginning, I started very excited to share a character, but also to have a chance to have different voices inside. And I felt that it was interesting to have a character making his own translation. So suddenly there is a Japanese speaking Ainsi, and a translation is alive. But not only they are together, there's virtual spaces, but also they have a very dark message for us, and it's the prophecy. It's realized now.
The prophecy of Ainsi.
It's happening because Ainsi was saying it will be lost. We will be lost beyond our screens, and there will be no safety zones. And it was a very prototype experience to enter a device, a frame, a technology, a character, designed and then engineered by someone else, and to begin some subjectivity.
The notion of subjectivity exists very much also in your work, Philippe, beyond Ainsi. Also the notion of automation, the subject as an automaton. How relevant are these two? How do they manifest in your work? The automaton and the subjectivity, or the automaton and the subject?
I think to go back to what Dominique was saying, before I answer your question, Vassilis, is that I think we both believed that the work of art is an encounter with an alternative subjectivity. And there is always another. And there is a second I, distant from the first I, which exists in front of the viewer. Except it's a different I because it's not involved with the purely human, endowed by the purely human form. It's an alien. It's an alien I. And Lee was an alien I. So in my work, yes, I have both creatures that are looking for or to be incarnated, to appear and eventually to disappear. Does that answer your question, Vassilis?
I think so. I think it leads beautifully back into the question of the apparition that I asked you, Dominique, before.
Yes, yes.
The appearance and the disappearance. Yes. Tell me about
Yes, Philippe, you made a perfect entrance for the apparition. Yeah. I remember when you asked me to think about something for your incredible exhibition at the Palais de Tokyo.
Yes.
And do you remember?
I asked you to be. I wanted you to be present to the show.
Yes, I was very excited about that, and we chose this fantastic for all the marquees. And some entering into my mind, and it was Edgar Allan Poe. And it was such a strong presence inside, which wanted to appear in your space, in a way, in your that I don't know if you remember. It was
of course I remember.
Moment.
What happened there, Dominique?
I freaked out.
But what happened exactly? What was the apparition, Dominique? Could you describe it?
Well, it has nothing to do with acting or any kind of... it's something that is a combination of a séance. Calling someone, making down the door, preparing a space for someone to appear, and suddenly it's not that someone is inside me, but I am inside someone. and it's a very strange feeling. Like Edgar Allan Poe was like a space, and I was looking at the audience, and they looked really scared. It scared me, and something happened inside, and then some friends thought I was lost.
And you disappeared?
That's what you said, Philippe, after.
You disappeared?
Yeah. Then you were, it looked like you were walking towards the audience in a long corridor,
Yes.
and then you sort of walked backwards, and I saw your face, and you looked terrible. You looked like you were collapsing. So I ran. I was
For
trying
a
to help
moment,
you.
I didn't know how to come back. Because I think
Yeah, I thought you were
some
gone.
powerful being, they're still around. And when he didn't find the door or the enter. So, but it makes me think about your obsessive from Frankenstein.
Frankenstein, yeah.
Tell us a bit about the Frankenstein, Philippe, and your obsession with it. What is Frankenstein to you?
So Frankenstein, it's a project of a film that I'm working on, and it's an adaptation of the book by Shelley. And in chapter 2 or 3, chapter 2, volume 3, sorry, you have this long monologue of the monster. And the monster is really articulated.
Yeah.
He's kind. He speaks 3 different languages. He's vegan. And but he's never been heard since we don't want to hear monsters. So there remains a cinema. In cinema, he remained like this weird monster, and who was unable to speak. When, in fact, he was really articulated. So the project basically is to bring a voice of a dead actor and do the prophecy of Mary Shelley and make it live again in order to tell the story.
In your work,
Yes.
Dominique, I want to turn to you again. Dystopian futures have played a role. You did a project called 2058, 50 years before that year, and it was a dystopian presence of a city, of a place that has been transformed. How much of the
Yes.
what's dystopia?
Well, it's very strange that next year will be the year that is the starting point in Solar in Green. This incredible film with describe our worst nightmares in terms of pollutions, violence, anger, repression, and it's also an interesting thing that a few years ago, when I wanted to use the word dystopia for museums, they said this word is not common enough, and I think that now the dystopian cinema are taking over, and we are totally used to this word, much more, and then to the word utopia. And so in London, it was an attempt to visualize a possible future, which appeared like a giant shelter, full of beds, lot of bells, and so weird to watch a Squid Game, and I realized that the main space, the players are hosted very much like the space. Also, there is a feeling that we at least maybe my generation lives in the fictional future, exploring as teenagers. It's a strange loop. You also have this feeling, Vassilis?
I think that for me the most interesting is like whether the future is still a relevant question or not. How much of do you think that the future will be a relevant question still in your practice, for example, Dominique, or not?
Well, that's a good question. Maybe Philippe have something to say about the future.
Yeah. I know the future. I've been to the future. I'm back. And it's interesting over
Philippe,
there.
I can't hear you so well.
I'm back from the future.
You need to speak a bit louder.
He's back from the future.
I was just saying that I was in the future, and now I'm back. Now I'm back from the future. So I can tell you, what do you want to know about the future?
What does it look like?
We can see in the present traces of the future. You saw it here.
You can
Don't
hear.
you think?
What about the voice and the body in the future?
The voices need to be incarnated without any bodies. The voices are floating in a sort of barrel, powered the bardo. It's a Tibetan notion. It's a state of existence which is intermediate between two lives on earth. And we're oscillating between both lives. Don't you think, Dominique?
Philippe, do you think?
Are you oscillating?
Are you oscillating, Dominique?
Sorry?
Are you oscillating? Are you floating between two spaces? Are you in the air? Is the voice oscillating?
Yes, it's very much like I felt.
The voice?
In between several space and bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And from there...
I remember, Dominique, you told me once that Joyce, when he was writing his books, he had an inner voice in his head, and it was not his voice. It was a voice of his wife.
Yes.
Do you remember that story?
Absolutely. Yes, I was very fascinated by this idea that this monologue he was transcribing was the voice of Nova Joyce, and that the book itself, Ulysses, is a combination of transcription, a very specific way of talking, and at the end they train collaborations. But sometimes Wonder the Future has an artificial voice, and it's just a chatbot, or if it's a living voice, which kind of voice is the future?
For me, the question, excuse me, for me, the question as well, what kind of voice would exist in the future? And I think the embodiment of voice, or also the meaning of voice, is something which is also like at the present a very pertinent question. I think through this conversation we made an attempt into looking into a technology that is present, ever present, and can carry voice, and can also carry many different voices. I wonder whether you want to say one last thing before we close, through your voice, Philippe?
Yeah, there is a book recently that I read from Ted Chong, and it's called Exhalation. And it's precisely about the idea that voices will keep being around until we have no more hair. Oh, no more air. And this air disappears, and there are no more voices to be heard. So what will be reminding us of civilization will be written words.
Dominique, one last word through your voice.
I just think, talking about voices, it would have been more voices, let the audience and questions, but maybe we don't have time for that, right?
I think I want to thank you for being here and doing this conversation through the voice that you have. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Vassilis.
Thank you. Thank you, Vassilis.
Thank you, Philippe.
Thank you, Dominique.
Thank you to our host.
Thank you, hosts and ghosts.
Thank you, body.